Hi guys, Aspen and I are back with part 2 of the Scott Peterson docuseries, The New Evidence. Just to recap, we didn't see much new evidence in part 1. Two little things stood out to me, but I don't think they had any relevance on proving his innocence, and you can go back to part 1 to see what I'm talking about. But we're going to dive in. Now, we haven't watched this yet, so what you see is our first time watching it too, so we have no idea what we're about to witness. But before I jump in, I know in part 1 I was talking about this book. It's called For Lacey. Lacey's mom, Sharon, wrote this book, and it's one of the best books I ever read, and it's more about her perspective and a mother's story of love, loss, and justice. And it's what goes on behind the scenes with the victim's family that you don't get to see in the media, the newspaper, the courtroom, or anything like that. So I highly recommend reading this because it does open your eyes to a lot more that's going on. That this documentary and many other documentaries that have come out for the past 20 years, they leave out that information. And Sharon obviously wanted this out. So
what year did you write it?
2006.
Okay, I was just curious how up to date it was with.
So this book is 20 years old, but she even puts in like pictures of Lacey. She puts in her journal entries and gives us an idea of who Lacey was, not just a pregnant mother who got murdered. This book will tell you how Lacey, who she was in school. She was a cheerleader. She loved gardening. She loved sunflowers. She went to school for herbology, I believe. She wanted nothing more to be a mom.
Yeah.
And
I believe she was really, really close to her, like she had a whole group of high school female friends that she like stayed very, very close to until her death.
Yeah, they still talk to Sharon. They just did a documentary on Netflix with Sharon.
Right.
But this also goes into her prior relationship before Scott and how that guy was controlling when she met Scott and how he wined and dined Sharon as well, how her family adored him. And it also goes into a little bit about how her brother felt about all this, her sister, her dad's, because she has her father and her stepdad. And it's just a really good book to get more of an insight on Lacey, on who she was and her family. So I highly recommend this.
Isn't it interesting as well how we could probably do an entire episode on how somehow people that are that giving and givers in the world become such targets for narcissistic, abusive douches. I mean, I don't know a better way to say it, but it's like, I'm like, is there a flag on our forehead that we just don't know about? Makes us like target?
I remember seeing Lacey obviously when she went missing, and I thought she had the most beautiful smile. And I never wanted kids, but this case happened when I was in 8th grade. No, I was in 9th grade. So it happened the fall of my freshman year. And I said, if I ever have a little girl, I'm going to name her Lacey, because I loved the name after Lacey Peterson, and I just thought she was so gorgeous. I'm 38 now. I'm not having kids, but if I did, I would have named her Lacey. And I just fell in love with her, and I don't know why, but she had this, you could tell she just wanted to love somebody and be loved back, which who doesn't? And like you just said, we're targeted.
Lacey?
She was 27 or 28.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were older than me, yeah, because I would have been 21 20 in December of 2002. But yeah, wow.
I just wanted to get a little insight on Lacey, not just Scott, because she's not just
Sharon
a headline.
Because it's a hell that no parent deserves to go through. I know we need to get into the episode, but it's like I have this entire list of women especially, because women, I feel like, hold families together. I feel women are the backbone of society. I feel like if it weren't for women, the whole world would have fallen apart forever ago. Which is partly, I think, why men try to keep such a control on it. But anyway, that's my personal opinion. But I will say that Sharon is among a very elite list in my head of women that I admire for going through hell and not letting it stop as hard as it must be for her to continue to go up every day and to advocate for what happened to her child
That
and
she does
grandchild.
talk about that in this book, because there's times in here she says how she just couldn't get out of bed for days. She couldn't get off the floor. Like, this is, I really highly suggest this book.
Probably
Yeah,
still. I mean, that's something
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I've heard that from
She said Lacey was her best
a
friend.
lot.
Yep.
I've heard that from a lot of murder victims' parents years after they go through with this. You know, some that we both know, some that I'm very close to. I mean, they might have a brave face, but you don't see the moments that they can't get out of bed even years later.
Yep.
Stacey Chapman has talked about that about Ethan, and I know
Nikki's told me
other
about
people
that about Gabby. Yeah.
I didn't know if Nikki had talked about it publicly, but I knew Nikki had told me that too as well. There's days they just can't, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So people
normal.
don't really
It's
see
human.
that. People don't see that side that it doesn't end. Grief never ends, especially when you don't have answers, or you don't have all the answers.
You don't have all the answers. Yep, I agree. So we're going to dive into part 2, and we're going to see what new evidence they have to prove us wrong and that Scott is innocent. I'm going to keep an open mind on this episode. You're probably going to see some facial expressions, and you might hear me talk
take
over. So
I'm going to take a beta blocker and just sit.
All right, here we go. Are you ready for this?
We've already retraced Scott's footsteps on the day of Lacey's disappearance.
It's a really risky endeavor to come down here with a body.
We examined critical evidence that was ignored and mishandled by the Modesto PD.
To take a gun without consent is not legal practice.
We found major holes in the prosecution's use of tidal science, thanks to new developments in hydrodynamic modeling.
The bodies couldn't have ended up where they were found.
And we reevaluated eyewitness accounts saying that Lacey walked her dog after the prosecution says that Scott Peterson had already killed her.
The consistency is pretty remarkable.
So if Scott didn't kill Lacey, who did?
If you see a mattress in the back of a van with blood, the inference is something bad happened.
There is so much investigation that needed to be done.
Dog scent evidence was a really big red flag.
DeVore was the walking, talking incarnation of junk science.
How can you have two major crimes across the street from each other? He did not do this.
The LAIP is putting forward evidence that the most likely theory of her abduction has to do with this burglary that happened right across the street from the Peterson home.
Will the new evidence hold water and exonerate Scott completely? That's what I intend to find out.
I hope they show some Nancy Grace in this.
Did you see how young she looked? I mean, she still looks young, of course.
Investigators are now calling Lacey's disappearance a case of foul play.
Lacey, who was 8 months pregnant, vanished on Christmas Eve while walking her dog.
This Modesto neighborhood has been searched by air and on horseback.
This is the Peterson home. Directly across the street is the Medina house.
The Medinas were the neighbors of Lacey and Scott Peterson. They went out of town for Christmas to Los Angeles to visit family on December 24th, the same day that Lacey Peterson went missing. When they returned home, they found that their home had been
one less neighbor got car.
His name is Stephen Wayne Todd. You see, Todd, along with his partner, are accused of breaking into this home across from the Petersons around the time Lacey was reported missing.
It recovered quite a bit of property.
They found a safe that had been stolen from the home, and they ultimately made arrests.
We're confident they are the ones that committed the burglary.
It's not disputed that there was a burglary that occurred across the street from the Peterson home. The issue has been, when specifically did that burglary occur? The Medinas left to go on vacation on December 24th around 10:30 a.m. Clearly, at that point, Scott had already departed his home. So if Lacey in any way has any connection with the burglary that's going on at the Medina's house, she's alive and Scott couldn't have killed her. In the initial criminal complaint, the Modesto Police Department said that the burglary occurred at some point between December 24th and December 26th.
We do not believe that at this time that there's any connection with the missing of Lacey.
The police justification for everything they did with respect to the Medina burglary was that it happened on December 26th, 2 days after Lacey Peterson went missing.
The burglary occurred between 0400 hours before a.m. and 0630 hours on the 26th, the day after Christmas.
The problem with that story is the fact that when Lacey Peterson went missing, it immediately became huge news. There were television crews and television vans up and down the street by December 26th.
Now, during the burglary across the street at the Medina's house, his large safe was hauled out of the house onto the street and removed. So if you believe the Modesto police characterization of what happened, that the burglary was after she went missing, then these reporters just see people hauling a safe out of a house across the street and nobody noticed it. I think what happened was the Modesto police changed the date of the burglary because it certainly would have undercut their theory on Scott. Because if it had happened on the 24th, it's the definition of reasonable doubt.
The media siege goes on as police continue to search the home of the missing Lacey Peterson.
She went on her walk, and the neighbor found the dog at 10:30.
The Medina burglary became a thing. The Los Angeles Innocence Project believes that the burglary of the Medina home happened on December 24th, the same day that Lacey Peterson went missing.
In recent years, new witnesses have come forward connecting Lacey's disappearance with the burglars in the airport district.
The fact that the LAIP has found 9 new witnesses, identified only by their initials to protect their identities,
who connect Lacey Peterson's disappearance to the burglars only further reinforces the fact that the police should have been investigating the burglary as related to Lacey's disappearance.
It was very clear to most people discussing it that it was an alternate theory. And the only thing that the state could say about it is it had nothing to do with the crime. It happened on December 26th.
People came up with this idea that Lacey was abducted by these burglars. And for those of us that did this for a living, I mean, it makes for pretty good TV drama. I mean, I could see putting it in a fiction show, but in real life, it just seemed like such an enormous stretch.
As a former LAPD detective, do you have a problem with the idea of this being a random crime, that there's no relationship between Lacey Peterson and the burglars who burgled the Medina home?
Coincidences happen. But with that said, based on the proximity where the Peterson property is and where the Medina property is, and the fact that you have a woman that goes missing, to not consider that there might be a correlation, I feel is investigatively negligent. As an investigator, you want to throw in the biggest net possible, right? And so this is part of the net. I believe that the reason why they were dismissive or ignored the Medina burglary is that they felt at that time reasonably sure that they already knew what had happened.
The confirmation bias and tunnel vision are so powerful that they essentially overwhelm people's volition.
Almost immediately after Lacey Peterson's disappearance, 2 of her neighbors reported to police that they believed the day before, December 23rd, that their homes were being cased by burglars. This home, right here on the corner, just a few houses down from the Petersons and the Medinas, the LAIP says that the owners, the Urquitas, said that they had a visitor knock on their door that evening with some story about a missing dog. They didn't believe the story. They thought the man was suspicious. And there's another neighbor just down the street that also had the same kind of visit. One of the two witnesses that reported to police they believe their home was being cased by burglars the day before Lacey's disappearance was in fact a judge.
Also on the stand today, Ricardo Cardova, a neighbor of the Petersons and currently a Superior Court judge.
Judges know how criminal justice works. They know the importance of making a report early in the process. So I find it to be highly credible.
He testified that a suspicious person went door to door in that neighborhood asking for money the night before Lacey Peterson disappeared.
Maybe these are the same guys that ultimately chose the Medina home. Maybe they're trying to figure out who's going to be around for the holidays, who's not.
There
I mean,
are
yeah, have
no
they seen
eyewitnesses that saw Lacey Peterson confront the burglars in front of the Medina home. But we know that Lacey was a member of the neighborhood watch, and she was known as being very vigilant.
And Lacey was just the type that if she saw something happening to her neighbors, she would go to help without thinking of her own safety.
There were people that said if you knew Lacey, you would know that if there was somebody untoward in the neighborhood, she would have let him have it.
But if the Medina home was burglarized the same day Lacey went missing, what it means is there's an entirely plausible explanation for her disappearance that has nothing to do with Scott Peterson.
All right. So 3 things I picked out. They just kind of answered that, but I was thinking, why would an 8-month pregnant woman confront burglars, putting herself at risk?
Yeah, I didn't get that. Give them hell.
Yeah, but they said that she was a member of the neighborhood watch and that, yeah, she'd give them hell. I don't think she would put herself in that position. I didn't know Lacey. I would like to know what Sharon's thought on that would be. You know, and it could be in the book and I just don't remember. But I don't think she would put herself at risk at 8 months pregnant. I also think that now I'm going to say this, even though I'm still on board that Scott is guilty. That timeline that they said with the burglars happening on the 26th, but it actually happened on the 24th, but they said that it would screw up the confirmation narrative or bias. That kind of struck me because if it happened on the 26th, just like Mark Garagos just said, and God, he's right. The news reporters would have seen them lugging them out, lugging stuff out of that house in a big safe. They would have seen them getting into the van, but apparently nobody saw anything. So I have to agree with Mark on this one, that on the if it actually happened on the 24th, but they changed the date and said the 26th. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, that I could see happening.
You know, I can, okay, so it is possible that it happened on the 26th, but, I have yet to ever see, I've always heard, the news cameras were out there. Yes, they were. The news cameras were out there on the 26th. Were they out there by 10 a.m. on the 26th or whenever this burglary happened? It happened in the middle of the night. We don't know what time on the 26th the burglary allegedly happened. So if it was 3 in the morning,
because this case was so big that they probably were camping outside this house.
It wasn't so big. It wasn't that big by the 26th. I feel like it's an over-exaggeration. I would like to see, if there's that many news cameras out there, I would like to see time-stamped news footage from the 26th. Because everyone said the news, where the news people were set up, you would be able to see that house in the background as well. Therefore, this should be easily provable. And I'm not saying it didn't happen, but also law enforcement, especially in 25 years, is not going to take a situation like that lightly and make a definitive statement as far as clearing those individuals without being certain that they have an alibi, that they could be cleared. And again, to use the argument that they did, this is, if it's broad daylight, and where's the forensic evidence in the van? Yes, there was a mattress, but where,
the duct tape.
Where was the testing in the van that matched Lacey? Where was any DNA? Where was that matched Lacey?
Something. I'm not saying Lacey, but I remember their crucial piece of evidence, which I'm sure we're going to go into, is a piece of duct tape from that van.
Because there was rumors that it was burned out, right? And that there was a mattress in it.
Yep.
Okay, creepy. And yes, burglars around Christmas, not surprising. Have said the people going to people's houses on the 23rd. That sounds like the MO from Home Alone.
That's what I was just saying.
And I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I'm saying the police are not going to clear someone lightly because, one, you're throwing your case out the window if you're not 100% certain.
The validity, yeah.
And yes, they do make mistakes, but they clearly were able to conclusively come to a reason that they said they were cleared. And I would like to know what that is. I would like to see if is it that they did have tunnel vision and they were only looking at Scott at that point, or is it that they were able to completely place them somewhere else at that time? Could this just be one of those red herring situations? But then again, you also remember that when she said that, well, if these burglars happened on the 26th, then that proves Scott didn't do it. I'm like, well, you know what? In Delphi, and I hate to bring back Delphi, but coincidences do happen in crime. Yeah. Liberty German was talking to a child predator the day that someone else then murdered her. So, there are, that's part of what's led to the speculation that, this person that's a child predator has something to do with Libby and Abby's murder in Delphi. But law enforcement were able to come out and conclusively say there's no connection. There's nothing placing him anywhere near Delphi that day. Mm-hmm. And in fact, they can prove he was 2 hours away or an hour away in Peru.
Yep.
So I don't mean to bring back up Delphi, but I'm just saying those two things, yes, it's weird. It's a coincidence, but it happens. So there could have been a burglary across the street on the 24th, and it might not have had anything to do with Lacey getting murdered across the street by her husband or whoever. And in fact, it's one less neighbor that wasn't home. How many of the neighbors were out of town on vacation? So all these people that didn't Scott, all the people that didn't see Scott, put her in the truck.
Yeah.
They said there were all these witnesses that saw that. Well, how many of them are out of town for Christmas?
Good question. The other thing
one house was empty.
The other thing that caught me from this part, and that's it, is they were going door to door saying they lost their dog. Why was Mackenzie running around with a leash on? So
maybe Scott maybe Scott let the dog out knowing the dog would be loyal and come back, but left the leash on. So it would be like, oh, Lacey must have taken him on a walk and disappeared.
I was going to say, that's a motive, right? An alibi. But if theoretically these burglars were there on the 24th, who's to say that they weren't going to use Mackenzie as an alibi? Because Mackenzie's running around with a leash. Oh, I lost my dog. And then all of a sudden, Mackenzie's running around with a leash and Karen finds her. Were they using Mackenzie as their dog that they lost? That's where my head went. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Right. Am I overthinking this or am I?
Yeah, I think so. It's also, I think then you have to, then if you go with the burglar van thing, then you also have to, you have to go through so many steps to get to it making sense. Because you then have to say that they, one, either they happen to also know where Scott had gone that day so that they could frame him, or they coincidentally dumped her in the same place that her husband was fishing that day, or they kept her alive or kept her somewhere else and then dumped her in the San Francisco Bay, like the defense likes to allude to weeks later or days later, because by that point it was public knowledge where Scott had been.
Uh-huh.
Again, there's no proof. There's not one witness saying they saw those two men anywhere near the San Francisco Bay. There's no indication they were anywhere near the bay, but we know Lacey ended up in the bay. So unless you can, unless you can put those two men or that vehicle at the San Francisco Bay, then I can't go from A to F without going through B, C, D, and E. Oh, I was just gonna say she was 36 days from her due date because she was due February 10th. I only know that because it's my sister's birthday. So I mean that fits in that, like, everything they were saying, like the 5 weeks thing, right? She had about 5 weeks left in her pregnancy if the baby were to come on time. And again, I don't understand putting all this emphasis on the size of the baby. Yeah, you know, she died before she got her 37-week ultrasound.
Yep.
Okay, but I mean, what benefit does it? I mean, I don't get that. I'm like,
they're trying to figure out, I think, if they can determine how old Connor is, they can determine the date that she actually died. That
Right.
way they can say, okay, it was Scott on the 24th,
Prisoner.
or it was the burglar on the 26th, whatever. And they can't prove that.
They're
And
not.
that's the,
But the thing is, they're not going to be able to determine it within a 2-day period. Not after being in the water for 4 months. And
I still think,
yes, they could test his bones, but I mean, you have to also think about what happens to a human body when it's in the water. The gases, and that's even with an infant. There's, so I mean, the size of that child, the only way that they get anything accurate all about the size of it would be, I guess, the bone testing, like which is why that woman, the bone doctor, was doing.
I believe Connor was fully intact when they found him.
Yeah, because they found him first, right? And then they found Lacey 2 days later, 4 days later, 1 day.
I think it was 2 days.
It was
later.
close. Yeah,
a day or two, and they
like
found him
18
with
hours or something,
twine or string or something wrapped around him. And that was another hypothesis.
But they think that happened. But I think they think that did happen, like
while in the water,
right?
With debris
kind of
floating.
Kind of like there were people that thought that the anchor was from Scott, but that they found originally that they thought was a body. That he was very excited to find out was not a body, because even though that was found in the area she ended up being found in, and he was very concerned.
That's drawing to a close.
He's an expert in maternal fetal medicine.
In my expert opinion, the date of death was between December 23rd and December 24th.
Did the growth percentile that the unborn child was in the first trimester?
Of junk science. When you talk about junk science, he's Exhibit A. What he lacked in competency and scientific basis, he more than made up for in his confidence in his opinions. That was a great source of frustration. I thought the jury could see it.
Mark Garagos said that the science that you applied in this case, he calls it junk science. I want to get your response to his position that it was junk science that you brought to the trial.
It's a great question. For Garagos to say it was junk science, and he had a great opportunity to prove that junk science was wrong. He had no idea. He hadn't prepared.
I was surprised when I heard the very narrow window that Dr. DeVore had presented. I don't know what information Dr. DeVore or some of the other experts have had that would lead them to give a more narrow window for the date of his death. I worry when we try and push data further than it supports. The only estimate that I can support is my 33 to 38 weeks, because there are individual differences in growths of babies. I still think of just a waste of a beautiful young woman, a waste of a baby. That's what I see, is just the waste of 2 lives, and actually 3 lives. Scott, whether he's guilty or innocent, it's a life that's gone.
DeVore gives a 48-hour range. Other experts believe that the range needs to be broader. If Connor Peterson died at any point after December 24th, Scott Peterson is not involved in that death, because from that date forward, he was under constant surveillance. He was the suspect in the case, and he was being followed by the media.
Dr. Wapner says in applying the NICHD equation, the best that he could get is a range, and he said the best that he could likely do is a 10 or 14-day range, I think. Well, first of all, he's asking the wrong question. Wapner was talking apples and oranges. But you don't know when we think the fetus died. That's the entire question. Making the assumption that when she disappeared, that would be her death date. If you're going to relitigate the case, that's fine. That's an opinion. But the question is, who's right? The easiest way out is to say, well, there's such a broad spread that we just can't determine that. That certainly is good for the defense, but I don't think that that's at all as accurate as they like it to make it to believe. We know when she disappeared, and we know the measurement that I obtained fit the day she disappeared, the 50th percentile.
Is it at all compelling to you that the new longitudinal studies arrive at a conclusion that the child is a week or 2 weeks older than what was testified to in 2004? No. So you're completely on the same page with Dr. Galloway.
Why shouldn't you be?
I've gone at you from every angle, so thank you.
I know you're a lawyer.
I came into the conversation thinking that the forward march of science in your particular field must necessitate that over time we are becoming more and more precise in our ability to determine things like gestational age. But you seem to be saying that variation being what it is in nature, we can't reverse engineer this. I can't take the studies and back my way into a precise date of death.
Right. The best you can do based on just that measurement is probably within 10 or 14 days.
But did he think he was going to get down to an hour?
When I signed on to do this, it had everything to do with the impact that the new science had on me. I would expect that someone like Wapner, who's this renowned expert, would say, oh yeah, the technology is 8 years ahead. That's what Dulay seems to say. And Wapner says, no, the LAIP's expert makes what he considers the same mistake that the state's expert made at the time of trial, which is assuming that Connor Peterson would remain in the 50th growth percentile. Wapner says you just simply can't do that, so you have to have a range. If I'm asking myself what's more reasonable, the state's expert saying that he can narrow down Connor Peterson's date of death to 2 days, or an expert who says you can't narrow down all of these unknowns to a single day, I'm immediately more drawn to the range. What was interesting is that Dr. Wapner most closely aligned with the testimony of Dr. Galloway at the time of trial. She was only willing to give wide range of dates for Connor and Lacey's likely deaths. And though she was the prosecution's witness, it seems they didn't like what she had to say, which is why they brought Dr. DeVore in to try to give them a specific date of death. The reality is that even if DeVore's findings are 1 day off, it exonerates Scott Peterson.
You can now select your ad experience. Interact with an ad for 30 seconds.
I haven't heard anything.
Practicing throwing everything at the wall.
Over 50 years.
And called
You represented Frank Carson in the civil case against Stanislaus County. Tell me who Frank Carson was.
I'm getting just as pissed as I was.
Frank Carson was a very well-known criminal defense lawyer in Modesto, which is in Stanislaus County. Allegedly, a well-known meth addict named Corey Kaufman went on Frank Carson's property to steal things. And then in March of 2012, Kaufman went missing. As soon as Frank Carson's name came up, the local law enforcement started going after him. There was no evidence that there wasn't one bit of DNA, there wasn't a fingerprint, there wasn't a bullet.
Why go after Frank Carson?
Frank Carson was quite controversial to the DA's office. He was a very aggressive defense attorney. He was well known and much disliked
by all the law enforcement people, but particularly by the DA's office and by the DA herself, Birgit Flatiger.
Birgit Flatiger, who was also a prosecutor in Scott Peterson's trial.
The similarities to the Peterson case are striking. Like Lacey, Corey Kaufman was a missing persons case, which was worked as a homicide. There were no forensics, there was no DNA, there was nothing tying law enforcement's main suspect, Frank Carson, to the crime. When you look at how they pursued the case, the criminal investigation just immediately said, this is the guy that's most likely, or this is the guy that we want to get. No forensic evidence, no murder weapon. How typical, when you're only at the missing persons stage, is it for a prosecutor to be, and the prosecutor's office to be directly involved in the investigation?
Very unusual. And so it was, again, another thing that made you look like, why are you going after Frank Carson, who was clearly innocent? To make matters even worse, in 2014, Frank Carson ran against her for DA. Of course, he didn't win.
And now he gets arrested in 2015.
A stunning scandal tonight. 9 people are in jail accused in a murder plot. Frank Carson is a prominent attorney in Modesto accused of orchestrating Kaufman's murder.
This has been a long 3-year investigation into the death and homicide of Corey Kaufman. We are pleased with the results of today's arrests, and we hope to serve justice for the Kaufman family.
So they accused Frank Carson, they accused his wife, they accused a bunch of other people, and all of them went to jail. They had nothing more than circumstantial evidence and no forensic evidence, zero. But this was a DA that I believe was corrupt. I think it was very clear that Frank Carson was innocent, and the jury acquitted him within a day. Immediately after the trial, our firm was retained to move forward with a malicious prosecution, false arrest case. Unfortunately, within a year of the time that we filed the complaint, Frank died. This is the most outrageous case I've ever seen. To find somebody who is the lead prosecutor, the DA, who is intentionally going after somebody, she should have known better.
Stanislaus County has approved a massive settlement for a Modesto attorney. The $22.5 million payout is one of the largest cash settlements in state history.
It's a sad case. I mean, we've been focusing on the injustice of the prosecution, but it leaves victims. You leave a wide wake of losses when you decide to go after a lot of innocent people. Frank died, and Georgia DeFilippo lost her husband.
So we're examining another case that the Stanislaus County District Attorney's Office prosecuted,
right,
where there is no forensic evidence of any kind, where there were other eyewitnesses that were completely ignored. And I'm talking about the Peterson case.
I don't want to speak to the Scott Peterson case that's not directly involved in it. All I can tell you is that the person where the buck stops here was Birgit Flatiger. That's my view of everything, and I think that's the $22 million settlement speaks to that. You've really got to question her judgment on other cases.
It was hard to listen to what Gary had to say about his own client's case without feeling some real dread surrounding the Peterson case. The comparison just jumps off the page, screams at you. You've got the same attorneys involved. If a DA is willing to prosecute an attorney that they dislike, then it's not much of a step to say that they will happily prosecute someone like Scott Peterson.
Stop. if she placed that dog in that gate at 10:18, how did everybody say they saw her walking Mackenzie between 10:30 and 11? How does 11 o'clock come into play?
That was my point. They said
how does 10:30 come into play?
They took earlier they said 10:34 she put the dog in the fence, and then they said the woman that saw the dog at 10:45 because she had to be at work at 11 that didn't know them, she was more credible. That's why I was like, what are they saying? They're taking the word off of someone that's never met them over the woman that lived there and put the dog in the backyard. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but we're like, what, 5 hours, 10 hours into this documentary? And,
yeah, we are.
And we just now the segment of the alternate theory. Like, what have we been watching?
I don't even know.
So that was all the science.
I thought we were just watching another documentary just now. Like, I was like, what?
That was all the science, and now they're going to get to the speculative stuff?
Yeah, when you have, what,
okay.
10 minutes left? So...
I was going to say, the last segment...
Like, I'm going to take Karen's word and say it was 10:18. And I'm just going to say that everybody who said they saw that dog and Lacey out after 10:18 is not true.
I mean, they already said themselves, you can't trust the dogs.
No.
But maybe the dog did it. Maybe Mackenzie did it.
Lacey Peterson took her dog for a walk.
No, listen, at this point...
There are 15 eyewitnesses
possible.
that see Lacey Peterson walking her dog after the time that Scott Peterson
drug that leash all the way to
for the Berkeley Marina.
Lacey returns home, sees a suspicious van across the street, and goes over to find out what's going on.
Lacey Peterson confronted career criminals who were engaged in the burglary of her neighbor's home, whether it was intentional, whether it was an accident that brought harm to her. If you're committing a burglary, that is a felony. You know that that's a crime that's going to put you in prison. And some nosy neighbor comes along and you can't shut her up. You may very well trundle her into the back of your van to get her out of the way. Now that you're ready to leave the crime scene and she's seen you, now what do we do with this nosy, loud lady? There's a police reserve officer who saw a pregnant woman being pushed into the back of a van.
Roughly 3.5 miles from her home.
And the eyewitness statements of people who saw her alive after Scott left for the Berkeley Marina
3.5 miles
are enough to force you to consider the possibility that someone got themselves in trouble, committing a felony, didn't want to get caught for it. From there, what happens is pure conjecture. But isn't it fascinating that these men who committed this felony immediately admitted to it and pled guilty? They didn't even have to charge the guys. The guys immediately said, we did it. We did it, but we didn't have anything to do with that missing pregnant lady. How did he kill his wife and leave no trace whatsoever? Why is it that the cadaver dogs didn't find any scent of a dead body in the Peterson home or at the Peterson warehouse? While this is speculative, it is no more speculative than the motive theory that the state ran on.
What do you think? I don't think I've told anybody what I actually think. Actually, I take that back. Jerry Spence, when he was still alive,
he left out
was considering doing the appeal and asked me that question. And I think Jerry Spence is the only person that I've ever told my theory to. And he was convinced that I was right, but I'm not articulating it. I think my theory would have to be proven in order to get him a new trial.
Is it provable? Are you going to tell us?
My theory? Yes. Yes. I'll leave it at that.
From a legal standpoint, of
prove
course,
it.
he doesn't have to prove who else did.
Prove it.
What's your
But
theory?
reasonable doubt is not going to be enough to change
prove
the
it.
story.
I mean, what you're saying, though, is that it's not enough of a story that they are destroying evidence. It's not enough that the state criminal justice system are hiding evidence. That's not a big enough story here in America today. All that describes is the breakdown of criminal justice and the breakdown of justice in America. The only way that this guy should get any relief whatsoever is if you can definitively prove who the real killer is. when the Los Angeles Innocence Project has effectively demonstrated that the investigators and the prosecutors here
failed to turn over potentially material evidence to the defense, that should be enough.
Back in 2003 and 2004, I argued on live national television over how this case and this investigation were being conducted. I argued at the time about the media's influence in the case. The media was leading the public to believe that this is an open and shut case, when in fact there was no viable evidence against Scott Peterson. There was nothing but demeanor evidence against him. What our investigation over the last several months has convinced me
but the public didn't convict
that the evidence that was presented to the jury was not just misleading, it was wrong, and it was defective. The other really surprising thing is the fact that the state's witnesses, in some cases, had agreed to do interviews and then at the last minute backed out. In other cases, state's witnesses who have been giving interviews repeatedly for more than 2 decades, now that the LAIP has brought to the forefront exactly what happened in the course of this investigation, now they don't want to answer for it. I came into this having been uncomfortable with the extent to which the media influenced the narrative around this case. That was really what bothered me back in the early 2000s. Now that I have stress tested all of the LAIP's claims, you become more convinced that the investigators and the prosecutor's office were intent on winning this case at all costs. And in order to get there, they had to withhold exculpatory evidence from the defense team, and they had to bring experts in to give testimony to the jury that was untrue, unreliable, and not scientifically sound. Those are major indictments. Any one of these individual problems is enough to get a case overturned.
What? Okay. We're gonna have to.
Their client is actually innocent. And for them to have taken on this case, they must have believed that it was egregious. The more you peel back the layers of the onion, the worse this gets. And once you do that, it's not hard to understand why the LA Innocence Project would put their very strong reputation on the line for a much maligned defendant like Scott Peterson.
The Innocence Project is saying when we add it all together, the new science attacking the old science, all of the destruction of the evidence, all of the withholding of information, the suppressing of information, that Scott's constitutional rights were deprived. And that because of all of those things, it also tends to show that he's actually innocent.
You couldn't sit there and listen to the evidence and be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt.
The LAIP's state habeas corpus petition was denied by the local superior court. The judge's decision was that the evidence that's being presented as new evidence here was inadmissible. But we're talking about new scientific evidence, science that did not exist 24 years ago. You also have evidence presented to the court that experts that the state put forward gave testimony that was not reliable. Unreliable testimony means an unreliable verdict. That is what habeas corpus exists to redress. This is a case that demands review. It's not close.
I can say on the law, and I can say just from a common sense standpoint, it makes sense why she would deny his motion.
Been reviewed.
Going into this, they most likely knew that this was going to be denied because the bar that the criminal justice system has set for any given defendant, let alone a high-profile defendant such as Scott Peterson, to get a new trial, is impossibly difficult.
It's
but
not
nevertheless,
true.
When you're serving a life sentence, what else do you have to do but to fight for your life?
It's not true. Look at it's happening all the time.
The fact that a judge or a judge's clerk could get it wrong isn't unheard of. The LAIP will appeal to the California Supreme Court.
And if they have to, they can take it all the way to the federal appeals courts.
which of course includes the U.S. Supreme Court.
I do believe that if Scott Peterson is to get a new trial, there's going to have to be something of a forensic nature.
Oh, God.
A hair that's tested, something along those lines. So I think it's all or nothing at this point for him.
Yes.
If this can affect
forensic evidence.
every one of us.
Do you mean
we need
science?
to care enough about the
Finally, somebody said
any one of us. It can affect every one of us. We need to care enough about the way criminal justice works that we hold our public officials to account.
True.
Any one of us that says, because I think Scott Peterson did it, it's okay 100%. That they destroyed evidence. It's okay that they withheld exculpatory evidence that Peterson and his defense team absolutely had a right to, that they never found out about even 20 years later. That it's not okay.
You're not.
The Scott Peterson case, if people can come at it and look at it with a fresh eye and say, I'm going to do my best to have an open mind and be objective and look at all this stuff, they have a lot to learn.
The media scrum.
You know, I think the saddest thing for me is that, you know, I think the Innocence Project's involvement, you know, I don't personally agree with their reasoning and getting involved in this particular case, but I do feel like I feel like they, in my book, are losing legitimacy, but I feel like their involvement is helping this narrative actually gain some credibility.
Yeah.
And yet, even though it's now been, I think the judge in 2026 they denied all 14 reasons that they presented. So every single thing that they presented that we just watched has now all been struck down in court. Yes, they're going to appeal to I think a lower state court or a higher. I can't remember what
federal. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's actually just go back down to a lower court first and then to the appeals. The way that it is because of the But yeah, I agree with the one gentleman that said, you know, it's going to take actual forensic evidence,
which they gave us none through the entire series.
We were told there was exculpatory evidence. We were told there was withheld evidence. We were told there was, you know, new science, but we weren't told what any of it was.
Nope.
And you know,
none.
And you know, I will say now, I will say there's absolutely, I don't think any excuse in the defense not being handed over actual discovery, but something that, you know, has been deemed to have nothing to do with the crime doesn't necessarily mean it's discovery, especially if the state is saying at the time they didn't have a report of it, they didn't have that phone call. And we know that sometimes discovery comes in the middle of the trial. Do you remember in the Alex Murdaugh first trial, the car forensics came in the middle of the trial?
Uh-huh.
Like the results had just came back. So, I mean, you know, I think it's important. I fully support there being,
there has to be forensic. And like he said, that's it.
Well,
that's his only chance.
I fully support there being, discovery deadlines set in place with prosecution, because I don't think the prosecution should intentionally drag their feet and then hand things over to the defense. But I also don't think, you know, they have to do the defense's job for them, and you organize it all to the point where they can be like, here everything is, here's all the information that you know. I feel like, you know, they you know, turn it over, but you know, it does sometimes in these huge cases require lots of time and it does take more than it, you know, it takes a while to do it. And evidence keeps coming in. Like, you know, they still record prison conversations. So could potentially be discovery coming in even after a trial. That doesn't mean it was withheld.
Yeah. And it can't be used against him. I mean, as more like,
but you can paint this narrative, which just sounds so nefarious and so conspiratorial, when it could absolutely just be the most innocent thing ever. Like, we may have just gotten this discovery or found it in an old file. That doesn't mean it was withheld.
No. Okay. I'm not convinced at all that he's innocent. This had not changed my perspective in any which way or form. There wasn't even a little bit of a hint to make me think Scott is innocent. All of it sounds like bullshit. All of it sounds like it's just shit being thrown at the wall, hoping it sticks. All of it just sounds like, quote, evidence, but they didn't show us evidence. They didn't show us timelines. They didn't show us metrics. They didn't show us data. They didn't even bring up the pliers with the hair or the anchors. They left those completely out. And those are two of the biggest things that Nancy Grace focused on.
And trust me, there's a reason why they probably left them out.
Yes.
Because
so don't forget those being left out.
Oh, they also left out that, Scott handed over his phones. He had secret phones. That's how he was carrying on an affair with Amber Fry. He was a liar. So yes, he turned over all his devices. No, he didn't. He turned over the devices he copped to own. He lied to his mom. He lied to his dad. He lied to his sister. He lied to his sister-in-law, who has an, I think, unhealthy.
I feel like she's in love with him.
Well, I'm not gonna go that far.
I don't care.
I don't know if my sister-in-law would go that far for me. But and I will say, I remember hearing about, and I know this still happens. Scott is still to this day one of the receives more attention and mail and money on his commissary than almost any other inmate in the country. In the first couple of years he was in San Quentin, he would get over 1,000 letters a week. And these were people that were in love with him. They weren't people saying, I think his commissary has been maxed out for 20 years. So, to say that, he's a victim in this too, and you know what? No, he hasn't lost his life.
The only way he'd be a victim is if he was proven innocent. 100%.
Out there fighting for his innocence, and on the inside he's living cushy. Other than the time he got attacked, which I don't even know. Was that March or April that someone attacked him?
I didn't even remember. I think I remember.
You got beat up, something, or you got hit or something like that. But
I don't know.
But in 20 years, I think that's the first time I'd heard of anything like that happening.
Yeah, he plays a pretty low profile in jail.
Because narcissists can adapt to their communities pretty easily. And when you're that good guy that wants to be they usually do have
people cigarettes and gives people
they usually do have pretty good
commissary.
reputations and records. I bet he's probably buddy with the correctional officers. Because he wants to be the good guy.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done this. I'm a good guy. I just couldn't wait to have my little boy and play. Go golfing and fishing with him, and
if he tells the same story for 20 years
about how to get away having an affair until I kill it.
Yep.
I'm still willing to have my mind changed, I would need to have the information in front of me. I would need you to not talk. I would need to not present information to me as if I am an idiot, because that's what I feel like. That they just were like, hey, guess what? It's a magic trick. Guess what? Look over here. Look over here. And sadly, it's going to work on some people. There will be a new little uptick in people that think Scott Peterson deserves a new trial.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the younger generation that doesn't really know about the whole trial and the whole case from 20 years ago.
Well, I feel like public trust in institutions is so fractured right now that people look for conspiracies, and so that they look for anything. They're like, oh, we were being lied to. It was the van theory. It was the burglar theory. Just like people are going to say, Charlie Kirk's mic exploded or this or that. There's got to be a conspiracy behind everything now, and nothing can be can be simple. Dylan and Bethany had to have something to do with Idaho. Richard Allen's not guilty in Delphi. Brian Laundrie's not dead.
Sometimes things are just how they are.
And people do horrible, horrible, unthinkable things. And sometimes people are wrongly convicted. That's true. Sometimes they are. I've not seen any of this. to prove
After
this.
this
I would
documentary, you will never convince me that Scott didn't do it. I don't care. I'm still 100% saying he did
if
it.
you show me that data and you show me all the evidence and it does point to it, I'm happy to look at it. But don't talk
all
to
of
me.
this was hearsay. Everything was hearsay.
Telling me I'm an idiot, that I'm not going to ask questions that I would think anyone with an IQ above 10 is going to ask. Like, okay, what's this new science? What data are you using to come to these conclusions?
There were contradictions throughout this whole thing, too. They would say one thing and then turn around and say something else, like the dates and the times and the lengths of times. Remember, that guy at the end was like, Connor died between the 23rd and 24th. So then Chris Pixley turned around and said, you said between the 23rd and 24th. And the doctor says, I didn't ever said that. That's too narrow. Dude, you just said it 2 seconds ago. Like, whoever edited this documentary.
Well, just like they said, we don't know why the witnesses that saw the dog and Lacey never called to the stand. And 30 seconds before that, Mark Garagos said, we thought we had them beat, so we didn't call any of them. So we do know why. But, again, I do want to say, I don't want to because, I do think that I do respect Chris Pixley. And I do, why am I having trouble with her name again? Ninette. I think that, I disagree with their theory, and their reasoning, but I
didn't agree with anything she said.
But I don't, especially I didn't at all. But I do respect Chris, even though I disagree with him.
I mean, I respect both of them. I'm just
still have respect for Mark Garagos, even though I disagree with him.
Yeah, exactly.
And I disagree with him on quite a few things.
There was just one thing in that entire documentary that Mark pointed out to me that I was like I said earlier, it was the date between the 24th and the 26th. Which one was it because of the news cameras being outside? That's the only thing I was kind of like, anything else?
Show us that news footage on the 26th.
I'm gonna watch
always heard it. They won't show it to us.
No.
There's no timestamps. I want to see it. Because every other case it says, I can find news clips with the time on them. So where are all these news crews out there on the 26th in the morning? And how do we know what time that burglary took place, even if it was the 26th?
This documentary is a money grab for all of them to make.
So
their
what
money
if it was
back for
3 a.m.? Because guess what? It was not a big enough case yet. The news crews were out there at 3 a.m. It was not Nancy Guthrie. And even when they talk about the fact that this stuff wasn't tested or this was thrown away. How many latex gloves did they find investigating Nancy Guthrie's disappearance? Do you think they've saved all 950 of them that they decided had nothing to do with the case? So does that mean that, years later, God willing, they find her, that if they find her and they arrest someone for this, that someone's going to be like, nope, he's innocent because they threw away all the 950 latex gloves they found that had no tie to her. So I'm just like, you can
make me more mad.
You can cherry pick. I mean, it's very easy to paint a picture you want people to see. Like it's kind of like, is it cake or is it, a shoe? You can make anything look real.
Well, if you watched Chris Pixley's face when he would ask questions of these experts and then they kind of debunked what he and Mark thought, he was kind of like, he was open to both sides. I don't think Chris is here to say, nope, he's innocent, nope, he's guilty. But here's the information I have that I'm presenting to you. Make up your own mind. But in the back of his head, I mean, he even said he never thought this case was handled the right way. So he's going into this bias as well.
Yeah, of course he is. But I think he's open about that. But I do think that he is also fair enough to understand that because even when he's asked, will this prove his innocent? He said, I think it'll come closer to anything ever has before. I mean, I guess after now watching it, he's not wrong. Because I mean, it's like the bar was here, and granted, to me, it's still here. But I guess for some people, it's probably here. It's probably moved a little. But I still respect Chris Pixley. I still think he's a good attorney and a good analyst.
I've listened to him talk about other cases and stuff.
And I think that, it always takes guts to have an unpopular opinion. And And he's gone out there and he has. I remember watching him on Larry King and Nancy Grace and him would go back and
so
forth.
young.
And
I
he
didn't
was
realize
so
that was him at CrimeCon. I'm like, Coach,
I did.
like,
I did until I was talking to him. I didn't either.
yeah. I was like, oh
but
my God, I used to watch him. Like, but I didn't make the correlation.
Nancy Grace and him because, Nancy is always very,
Oh, I want to see her. I want to hear her feedback on this. Oh, I hope she does a thing.
But, so, I mean, but even then he was pointing out the things that he didn't like about the case. And I will say, we live in a different time. I would have liked there to have been cameras in this courtroom, just like I wish there were cameras in every courtroom. But, I guess in this case, I think both the prosecution and defense, I don't think either of them wanted cameras in there.
Can
And
I point out?
This was one of the first non-celebrities Mark Geragos represented.
Yeah, because he represented Michael Jackson, Winona Ryder.
Like he was rich. So it's like he did this, I think, for the, definitely, probably, so I will, at least give Mark the credit that I'm sure he's made lots of money off of this case, but he's not been paid by Scott Peterson in a very, very long time.
Yeah, he's probably doing it.
But I will say,
now?
In the scheme of cases he's handled, the fact that he must genuinely believe and care about Scott.
I think he does
because, I don't think this ranks that high up there on the cases that he's profited from financially or popularity wise.
I don't think Mark would have gone this far. I think he does truly believe Scott is innocent. I really, and I think he's going to take it to his deathbed.
I disagree with him, but I think he thinks that.
I think he thinks I think he just believes, and he said from day one.
I think they're like buddies at this point.
Oh yeah, that's probably who he was texting when he was on stage at CrimeCon.
I kept waiting for him to call in.
Because these prisoners have cell phones and text and FaceTime in jail.
And we know he's got.
I'm going to recap real quick. The biggest things
Can I plug one thing really quickly?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think you're a fan of them as well. But anyone that is, and not to plug another podcast, but for anyone that's a fan of the Prosecutors Podcast, who Brett and Alice are lovely people. They run a Substack on this case that is really, really good called Scott Peterson is Still Guilty. And I suggest everyone check it out because it's very, and they lay it out because they're both prosecutors. So they lay out their reasoning behind why he's still, and they explain also some of the court rulings that have come about lately. So I think it's their Substack. And if you just go to Podcasters or Prosecutors Podcast, you should be able to find their Substack.
All right.
Yeah,
I don't follow them actually, but I will.
Oh, you would love them. You'd love to interview them.
I may be following them. I follow so many that I can't.
I think I introduced you at CrimeCon, but yeah, sorry.
Maybe. I know. I just want to recap my findings on this because we did. This was a lot of hours invested into this docuseries. 7-8 hours.
So well spent.
All day Saturday. So, these documentaries, the first one, the part one's only an hour and a half. The second one's 2 hours. But because Aspen and I wanted to review it, it's just been taking a long time. And then I have to go in and edit this later. So yay. The thing is, this is what stuck out to me the most. The burglars walking around saying they lost a dog and Mackenzie's just running around with a leash. The van being reported 2 different colors, white and orange. And then when they find it, it's burnt and it's white and orange. The hypnosis thing that the cops had that witness do. Her saying that yard workers don't just look at people, and that's the reason why they're burglars and they're suspicious. Nobody took the witness stand. 15 witnesses in the neighborhood saw her. 7 saw the van, and 9 saw the initials, but not one of them was brought up to the witness stand. The dog scents weren't reliable. And then Lacey's handwriting was on the Post-it notes that proving that she knew about the boat. Again, I didn't know that. That's the only new piece of evidence that I was like, oh, because they didn't present it until 2024. But it still doesn't matter if she knew about the boat or not. the dates that they keep jumping around, the 23rd, the 24th, the 26th, the 28th, God knows, maybe February, who knows at this point. And them talking about the cover for the boat, not the straps not being stretched. It's not worn out. It's not dirty. I mean, that's all they have on this. That's the evidence. And none of it is new except the Post-it notes that Lacey wrote on. That's it. That's the only new piece that I pulled out of that, was that Lacey wrote on the Post-it notes and knew about the boat. That's it. I don't know if you grabbed anything else, but that's it for me.
No, I will say, I always notice, like I said, it's very hard for me not to like notice the language they use in these docuseries now, especially when, we knew it was going to be a narrative, opinion-based docuseries to begin with. So, it's not like anyone expected this to be an objective look at the case. But, like I look at the language they use and, and how intentional that it is to use wording that's very convincing. And then you look at the things they leave out. And again, like you pointed out the cement blocks. You pointed out the
they didn't talk about the cement at all.
The pliers. They didn't go really even into
Scott cleaning out the baby room. They didn't talk about that.
Or the bleach, or the investigators when they came to the house that night, how it smelled like bleach. They never talked about. They actually said the Martha Stewart show wasn't the Martha Stewart show. It was the Today Show that Martha Stewart was featured on, and the prosecution thought the date was wrong, but the defense was actually correct in that. The prosecution just didn't watch the whole show, which was stupid of them. The Today Show is like 2 or 3 hours long, and they, I guess, just didn't watch the whole thing. But she was on that day. And so, but then they didn't mention at all the clothing that Lacey was wearing, or the clothing she was found in. These are all pieces of evidence that, I think would play into proving or disproving part of their science or their narrative. And I feel like, I haven't dug into it that deeply, but if they're not mentioning it, it's probably because it doesn't support their theory. Yeah. But that being said, they convinced me. I think he's innocent, and I will now wear a Free Scott Peterson Forever shirt.
I will never speak to you again, by the way. I know you're being sarcastic, but
I'm going to write him a letter tonight and send him a few pictures.
I'd like to write him a letter just to see if I got something back. Just to say,
I'm going to catfish you to Scott Peterson.
Yeah. No, and all jokes aside, back when this happened, I remember I was in high school and I remember looking at him going, man, he's a good looking dude. Clearly not now. He was in his prime, but not now. Ben Affleck would play a very good Scott Peterson, by the way.
Probably should have tipped you off to maybe some toxic traits you may have.
I have a thing for brown eyes, but not a murder.
Or you just have, toxic attractions.
I probably would have fallen right into Scott Peterson's trap, 100%.
I think I should have known that things weren't going to go great for me in the romance world when, Skeet Ulrich's Scream was like my first.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas was mine, and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Right, and then it goes to and
Taylor
the guy
from Hanson.
And then it goes from Charlie from Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my gosh, you haven't showered in days. Just put on those same jeans, you're fine.
Yeah. I went.
Oh, I love that Marlboro light smell in your breath.
Immediately fell in love with Ben Affleck when I was 12 when I saw him in saw him in Pearl Harbor, and I saw him in that movie. And I was like, that's when he got me with the big brown eyes. So I'm like, oh no, but he didn't turn out to be good either. He's a cheater and got kicked out of MGM's casino for counting cards, and so there's something about these narcissists, bringing it back full circle, that they really do know how to manipulate, target the right vulnerable, loving people, say what they know you want to hear, do what they know that you want to see them do, they can live a whole separate life. And this wasn't mentioned either, because of course it's not going to fit the narrative. Scott lied and said he had college degrees from Caltech and somewhere else. No, he doesn't. They're fake. So he's been a liar since high school.
Did he have one?
Huh?
Did he have one degree?
He had one, but he said he had two. But the one from Caltech, according to this book, wasn't real. And Sharon found that out later. But this has been a pattern, and that's an abuser, that's a narcissist, that's a cheater. They're patterns of lies. They're pathological liars, and they will do anything they know. I think narcissists. Now, you may disagree with me. I think narcissists have a very high IQ.
I was told a long time ago.
So smart, they're stupid.
It takes intelligence to be, it takes intelligence to be manipulative.
Yeah.
And to be good at it.
Yeah.
And however, narcissists, I think, are also so incredibly fragile that they break very, very easily. Even if they don't do it outwardly, they crumble inside. And
that's why they're private people and they don't tell anybody their business, because they don't want people to know that side.
Sometimes that's what sends them over the edge. Because heaven help anyone that hurts a fragile narcissistic ego. You are automatically you automatically then the enemy.
I clearly have become a target for narcissists, and I'm an empath. I love love. I just want to love and have someone love me. I could be homeless, and as long as I have my love with me, I'd be fine. And that's my problem. Yes, I did. I love love. Valentine's Day is my favorite holiday, Aspen. Come on.
I mean, I like Valentine's Day too, but I mean,
it's my favorite day of the year.
Top of the thing, I mean, as far as the top 10 things I love, I don't know if love is one of them.
I love love. However, there's so many different kinds of narcissists. Just because you've dealt with one narcissist doesn't mean you know how to navigate all of them. They all play their own game in a different way.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of, there's a shorthand. Raise this, you just have to raise the level one up.
Yeah. So,
and the best thing you can ever do for a narcissist is give them no breath. Give them, indifference is the best weapon in the whole world.
You have to cut them off like a limb that gives you no blood. Like, just
indifference is the most deafening thing you can do to a person. People would rather be hated than not matter.
Yep. 100%.
So, I have always had that in my arsenal and my tool belt of self-protection.
That's true, because I feel that way. I don't care who doesn't like me, but I don't like being stonewalled.
Because I love love so much that I have a whole arsenal of weapons that I use to protect the whole idea that I can continue to love. I love boundaries. I love airplanes. I hate flying. I love new cities. I love new adventures. I love the way that food smells. I love my niece. I love my cat. I love my friends. I'm okay not loving someone romantically ever again.
See, I have this whole I still believe in it. I still believe I'll get my fairy tale, and I'm just naive. Even though I've been strangled and beaten and lied to and cheated on, I still have hope that there is a guy out there that has enough decency to treat a woman with respect. And I know they exist, but they're either married or they're gay.
Well, of course there is.
I definitely, but yeah, we're going to wrap this up. I definitely would have fell into the Scott's. You like what?
I also love not compromising.
Yeah, I do enjoy that.
I love eating Cheetos while I'm in bed, or Doritos in bed with my cat.
Yep.
And not being judged while I watch HGTV or
Forensic Files as I go to sleep. Those shows relax me. So yeah, that docuseries I felt was one of the most boring docuseries I've ever watched. There were times I was falling asleep with my eyes open, and I was starting to disassociate a little bit, and I just wasn't paying attention. It wasn't anything new except the Post-it note that Lacey wrote on. It wasn't convincing. It wasn't full of evidence. It wasn't anything that is substantial to prove me that he's innocent. I do not believe he's innocent. I probably never will believe it. I'm still saying this man is guilty. He killed Lacey. He killed Connor. He did it on the night of the 23rd, disposed her body in the middle of the night. That's it. That's my...
Well, I will say that, like I say for any case, if viable, actual, real new evidence comes to light that presents factual information that could indicate even the idea of his innocence. That's why our judicial system is set up the way it is, and that if that evidence exists and he deserves a new trial, then he should get one. I think Alex Murdaugh is somehow from the information I have, is involved, whether he pulled the trigger or whether he was there when it happened, with his wife and child's murder.
He was there, but I don't think he pulled the trigger.
I also think because of what happened in his first trial, I believe that he deserves a new trial. I think it sucks for Carolina. If I was a taxpayer in the state of South Carolina, I would be very upset, especially if they're not going to be doing restitution from Becky Hill.
But anybody in South Carolina that happened to, they'd expect a free trial too, with somebody else could put.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, like, even if I feel like the person is guilty, I also support that someone that a fair trial is that our Constitution ensures all of us that right. And you know what? I may hate what someone did, but if something happens like what happened in Alex Murdaugh's trial, he deserved a new trial. I don't think Becky Hill intentionally swayed that jury, but what she did was wrong. And so, if this happens in this case, then you know what, he should get a new trial, and hopefully then a whole nother jury will convict him. Just like I believe, unless new evidence or information comes to light in Alex Murdaugh's case, I believe the same thing will happen with Alex Murdaugh. I think it will come to the same result. But that's why I'm glad that, things can be held up to the standard of being, looked at or being analyzed. Not the word that I'm thinking, but I think I'm brain dead after watching that.
I can't. My brain. I don't know what I just watched. That's the problem. Like, I don't know why it's only showing this side. I wanted to highlight Lacey, but I don't know why.
I sent you that statement that Sharon had to say about the documentary. I didn't know if you wanted to read that or not.
Yeah. So I read this the other day.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Lacey Peterson's mother, Sharon, says she's tired of hearing new evidence that could clear her former son-in-law, Scott Peterson. In newsnationnow.com, it says, in the murder of her daughter and unborn grandson in 2002, it's never ending, and it's like ripping the scab off a wound every time, she told People magazine. All they're looking for right now is to throw everything against the wall and hope that something sticks. Bottom line, he is guilty, and that's it. Maybe I shouldn't sound so harsh, but I'm tired. I'm very, very, very tired.
Can you imagine?
I want to pull something from this book.
While you're doing, I will say, I'm excited to hear all of your listeners and everyone that's watching this or listening to this. I really, really hope that you do comment or drop a comment and do you agree with us? Do you think we're being too harsh? Do you think Scott Peterson is innocent? Did this change your opinion at all in any way on the case? I just want to know your feedback, and I respect anyone's opinion, even if it's the exact opposite of mine. Even if you're like, Aspen, you're the dumbest person ever, like you don't know anything, he's innocent. I want to hear it. Like, give me, please don't call me dumb. Be respectful, but I do hope that you get a lot of feedback from this, because I'll be interested to hear what it is.
I'm looking for something. that she wrote in this book. Again, this
Well,
book
she's
for
looking at that.
Lacey.
Well, she's like, I think as of the beginning of this year, I think unintentional drug overdose and homicide are the two neck and neck leading causes of death for pregnant women in the United States. That should say something. More
Here
women
it is.
die. More pregnant women die from homicide than from childbirth in the U.S.
She wrote something in this book about Lacey. And again, the moral of my podcast is we always want to shine light on the victim, right? And Lacey is, I don't even know. Just listen to what I'm going to say. Sharon says, Lacey's zest for life and her sense of humor come out clearly in her old school papers, which I saved to show her children one day. Take the questionnaire titled My Story, which she filled out on the first day of 4th grade in September of 1984. My name is Lacey Denise Rocha. She wrote in a big, loopy little girl's hand, clearly practicing her cursive. I weighed 7 pounds. I now weigh 70, and I am 4 feet 5 inches tall. I have brown hair and brown eyes. I do not wear glasses. I do not have freckles. I am right-handed. There are 5 people in my family, counting me. There are my dad, mom, brother, me, and my sister. Sharon says the second page is called My Likes and Dislikes. And I just wanted to read this because this is who Lacey was. And she said this didn't change much through her adulthood. She was pretty much the same with all of this. She said that reading it and reliving her innocence makes her smile. She writes, 8 things I like: music, chocolate, roller skating, my cat, my best friend, Amy, great America, sweats, and playing. 8 things I really dislike: shots, liver, waking up early, cigarette smoke, cleaning my room, homework, mosquito bites, and spinach. So she says on page 3, she lists her all-time favorites. Her favorite number was 3. Favorite color was blue. Her favorite school subject was social studies. Favorite animal, unicorn, which is weird because I said that word earlier and I forgot. Flower is the rose. It ended up being a sunflower. Song, Mother's Girl. TV show, The Bill Cosby Show. Favorite time of day, 3 o'clock. Gee, I wonder why.
Oh.
Day of the week, Friday. Month of the year, May. That's her birth month. Game to play was scat. Places to visit, Great America. I don't know what that is. Sport, softball.
Great America. What state did she grow up in? Great America. She's not from Minnesota, is she?
No, they're from California. Unless they
She's
moved
from
and I can't remember.
Great America. It might be a theme. It might be like a Six Flags type thing.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember if she always lived in California. But anyway.
Right. I think Great America is like a kind of like a Six Flags.
Park. Holidays, Christmas, newspaper section, movies. Now this is coming from a 4th grader. Her favorite movie in 4th grade, Police Academy 2. Favorite car was a Lamborghini. She loved Taco Bell. Recording group, Prince and the Revolution.
Girl. She
her
should have married
favorite
me.
actor, John Ritter. I got to give her props for that. Athlete, Joe Montana. She loved Garfield. Her favorite
What if she said OJ?
Was Mrs. Fisher. Her favorite clothes was a bathing suit. She loved clam chowder, salad, and shrimp, spare ribs, artichokes and sweet potatoes, hot fudge sundaes, chicken noodle soup. Her favorite candies were gummy worms, and her favorite ice cream was Rocky Road. So I just wanted to give a little bit of insight on who Lacey was. There's journal entries through this. There's diary entries. It's worth the read.
It'd be great if Sharon would not this shows us anything, but it'd be great if she did a update to it, just like not like maybe a full, not like but do a new forward to it or a new add a chapter to the end. I'm sure they would reprint it. Why she should make, and then instead of all these people making money off Scott, maybe she should make some.
After she graduated, her last summer at home flew by, Sharon said. She wrote her mom this message, and after that, I'm done, because I don't want to give the whole book away. She says, Mom, You are a very special woman in my life. I just wanted to take this time to say thank you for all your support and love. Although we have our differences, I will always love you. I am going to miss you, but that's what a telephone is made for. I hope you can support and stand by me, even though you do not agree with the decisions I make for my future. I love you, Mom, and your supporting my decisions mean a lot to me. You mean a lot to me, and I hope nothing will ever come between us. I want to congratulate you on your job and all the great success you have accomplished. I knew you could do it. I love you, Mom. Your daughter, Lacey. Quote, remember to always smile. So, Aspen, I'm telling you, read that book.
Those words, I can only imagine resonate in like an earthquake, like an 8.10 earthquake compared to when she probably read them for the first time, because I mean,
yeah, I think I'm going to read that book again because
anyway, I also wanted to mention, I do need to go soon, but I wanted to mention, it's one of those things also that's hard to imagine. Connor would be 23 years old right now.
Mm-hmm.
He would be in graduate school or doing whatever he would be doing. And all of that just, because Scott, didn't want the life he chose and created. It's such a waste. You destroy all of these lives. And for what reason? Because you're bored. Because you're bored. I won't blame her. I
don't blame her. I'm saying he looked at that shouldn't have said that way.
Lots of people have affairs and don't kill their wife and a baby.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, he did all of this for a piece of ass because that's why I think all cheaters do it. They don't care about anybody else except the piece of ass that they're getting in the moment.
I think that you have to have that darkness within you already, and I think that the piece of ass cut is something that you might seek out actually to give you the excuse to actually do it, because you're too much of a coward to be on your own by yourself.
That's
so
they're codependent.
You got to line something up. But again, it's not about that. It's not about that other person. It never is. Nope. It's, they have it within that. They're just bored. They're just bored, and they decide that,
they need
the life
be validated.
that they chose and that they built is not good enough or not something that they want anymore. That they want to be a little boy and just go run away and play. Mm-hmm. And that, sadly, that's pretty much that's what they're able to whittle people's entire worth down in their mind. Because I think you have to do that in order to kill someone. Yeah. You have to whittle their worth down to the absolute, to where they are absolutely nothing.
But how could you whittle her, not just her, anybody, but Lacey's worth down? How? I mean, look how she just looked like a bright light angel. Like
the reason that we can't understand that, I'm grateful for.
Oh yeah, me too.
Because if you can't understand it,
that's a problem.
That scares me.
I don't want to know you.
Right. Now I can understand if someone kills someone out of like absolute anger or like revenge. That I can understand.
Cheryl McCollum says in her book, Swans Don't Swim in a Sewer, that sometimes it's justifiable.
I mean, typically when what's the first thing you think when a husband kills a wife? What a monster. When a woman kills their husband, you're like, what did he do? I do think that, to put your bare hand on anyone's neck, let alone someone that you have said you love, that you have taken vows in front of God, in front of that you've been intimate with, that knows things about you no one else in the entire world has ever known, or that you've confided in, and the person that you're supposed to be able to trust more than anything in the entire world, that knows every good, bad, everything about you, to put your hands around their neck and to physically feel the life leave their body, especially knowing that your weeks away from being born child is also dying as you're doing it. There's no place deep enough in hell for you to go, in my opinion. And I'm sorry to end on such a dark note, but that's where I keep going with this. The same as I do with Chris Watts. The same as I do with what Brian Laundrie did to Gabby. The same as what all of these monsters have done. And countless others will do in the future. Someone is probably doing it right now.
Oh, yeah. Next door, across the street, down the road.
Oh, well,
your
I mean,
neighbor,
lots
your friends.
of people are getting strangled right. Lots of people are getting strangled right now in domestic, and sadly, not nearly enough of them will probably walk out the door tonight, but hopefully they will next time. So,
Well, Aspen.
I don't want to end on this a negative note. Sorry.
No, it's true. It's important to talk about, though. It's real. It's domestic violence awareness, and we're not going to sugarcoat it. It's the honest truth, and that's when you speak with raw truth. That's when changes are made. I don't know if I told you, actually. Did I tell you I went to the senator's office 2 weeks ago and had a meeting with them? And the email that the Gabby Petito Foundation endorsed for me back in February, Nikki gave me permission to give to the senator's office. They sent it up to Harrisburg.
Nice.
And I had a list of 10 things I want to see changed in the domestic violence laws and PFA laws and consequences here in PA. And the senator chief staff sent it up to a guy named Justin in Harrisburg. He emailed me back immediately the next day. It said he wants to meet with me mid-August. And he said when the next budget comes around, he can see some of these things probably being implemented. And I'm just like, she's like, she went through my PFA and she's like, this is all like, I see everything right here, but it's a hard defense because a lot of it's social media. And but I do agree. We live in 2026 and more officers and people need to keep up with the times and how people are being stalked. Anyway, I just want to let you know, I did accomplish that. I was very proud of myself.
Well, let me know if you need any help with any of it.
Yeah, I will. No, it made me feel good that she emailed me the next day, copied Justin, and he immediately got back to me and he's like, I want to meet mid-August. And I'm like, that's quick. Like, I was really surprised.
If you do meet your senator, could you tell him to stop wearing gym shorts like he's Adam Sandler everywhere?
Oh, you're talking about Fetterman. I only met with the local senators, Marty Flynn of Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, but yeah, I'll tell him. But yeah, I'm never going to filter the truth and the facts about domestic violence data and metrics. It's 750% more chance that they're going to kill you if they've already put their hands around your neck.
You're 100%
or even
true.
grab your face or anything like that. So
yeah, you are 100%. Because as I said, if you have that within you, then you have it in you to do it again.
Yep.
But I will say, I want to end on a lighter note. I will say, is none of my friends when they get married think it's as humorous as I do when I put in their wedding card, congratulations, you just increased your chances of getting murdered by 50%.
I would laugh. So remember me when you...
I do it usually when my female friends are having a bachelorette party or something. But
I would probably frame that.
Statistically, you are increasing your chances by 50%.
You are 100%.
Okay, I can't. It's science. It's not me. It's science.
You can buy me a wood chipper just in case. Yeah. See, guys, I've been strangled. I can make light of it in a certain way because it's my twisted way of coping. So some people probably don't believe me when I say I've been strangled. I've been abused for 9 years. But you get to a point where you have to find some kind of humor in life. And I'm not making light of domestic violence. I'm not making light of somebody being strangled.
Yeah.
The wood chipper is a joke because if somebody lays a hand on me again, that's going to be the last time they lay their hand on anybody. That's it. So
I'd have to go rent one. But I mean, sometimes dark humor is a way that people,
that's how I cope.
I use it to self-regulate sometimes.
Yeah.
See, just like I do self-deprecation, not defecation.
All right, we're gonna end. We're getting delirious. Well, that whole docuseries was defecation. I'm done. All right, guys. Thank you. If you sat through both of these with us, regardless on your thought on if Scott is innocent or guilty, let us know in the comments. Let us know your thoughts. I'm not against. I like to hear people. I'm open-minded to hear your case. I might not agree with you, but I'm not going to disrespect you, and I expect that in return. Aspen expects that in return. You can disagree with us, just you don't need to disrespect us, and vice versa. Like, everybody's allowed to have an opinion. Everyone's opinions are welcome. Obviously, if you're not bullying people and putting down Lacey's family and making Scott to be a victim. If you say anything bad about Lacey, I will literally block you, ban you, and that's it. Like, I'm not playing that game. However, if you want to be a civilized adult and have a mature conversation, we're here. Follow us. We're both on Facebook, Aspen Connor and Tiff Kline. Turning the Corner is my newest podcast. It's about domestic violence, cheating, nonprofits, family dynamics, domestic violence, so many things. And then True Crime with Tiff Kline. I just hit over 4,000 downloads. So thank you for all your support. It's been fun. And we have a lot coming up. I have a lot of speakers booked between now and I can announce Joe Scott Morgan's going to be on my podcast in August. And Nicole and Jemmy is going to be on my podcast in August. And Cheryl McCollum and Nicole and Jemmy of Mother Knows Death. And she has a podcast with her daughter, and she's a pathologist.
Okay.
And Cheryl McCollum. And
never heard of her.
Tina Patton, who is the sister of Melissa Wolfenberger, who was unfortunately murdered. That's going to be the next podcast. She was unfortunately murdered and dismembered, and her father was the Flint River Killer. And he helped solve his daughter's murder that he did not do from behind bars with Cheryl McCollum. So I'm going to be interviewing Tina. So stay tuned for that episode. Tina is Melissa's sister. I have a bunch of Dating After Darks coming up next week. I have some domestic violence survivors from my area that are willing to speak, and some want to be anonymous, some don't. It's fine, whatever they prefer. But yeah, I have a big list now coming up. Monday night, I'm going to be on a new podcast of Lovers and Liars. Lisa,
I think you just followed me on Instagram.
Yeah. She just came out with it. She has 2 podcasts, but this one's Liars and Lovers podcast, and I will be on it Monday night, and we're going to be ruthless, and I'm going to talk to her about my most recent relationship issue. But anyway, thanks for tuning in.
I thought the name was a targeted dating app that I was going to join or something. Lovers, Liars. But I don't know if you watch Saturday Night Live, but I'm actually going to have Joseph Scott Morgan on my show twice next month. Cheryl McCollum is actually going to start a new show for me, and then Nancy Grace is actually
you got to what up with Nancy Grace.
She's actually going to give me her show. Because I actually started Court TV before I was born.
I literally told Cheryl the other day, I texted her, I was like, hook a girl up and get Nancy on my show. I'm like, I got the trifecta. I got Nicole, Cheryl, and Joe. I need this superfecta with Nancy.
Do you at least know what she was doing, though? The one-upper, Kristen Wiig's my favorite. The one-upper was my favorite ever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, she plays with her hair. Just I know. I knew what you were doing. I knew the reference.
I actually could do that before you were born. I'm the reason there's air. I can't do it.
No, but I knew the exact reference you were doing. I always liked her on SNL when she's like the Californians. They're like, Scott, why are you going down the I-85?
I could probably be on my deathbed, and she could do the scene in the Skeleton Key with her and Bill Hader, and I would die laughing when she.
I think she's the funniest. Her and Kate McKinnon are the funniest women.
And them singing Wilson Phillips and Bridesmaids, I love Kristen Wiig. And so
it's a lot of Gilda Radner reference.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in to True Crime with Tiff Kline, featuring Aspen Connor. This will be a 2-part series. So if you missed the first one, make sure you go back and listen to part 1 before you listen to this one.
I would say Justin Bateman can play Chris Pixley in the film version of this documentary.
Please, I hope they don't make a film of this. Please don't put that in the universe. Please stop.
But who did the Lifetime one? Dean Cain? Didn't he play Scott Peterson?
He did. I think he played a good Scott, but I think Ben Affleck would have been good. Ben Affleck was in Gone Girl.
Well, look at Gone Girl. There's a lot of similarities there.
Well, what's more similar to that case is the Sherry Papini case. That's what Gone Girl is based off of.
Yeah, I know. I know. Scott and Ben Affleck's characters.
Yes. But Ben played that character that's like Scott, but Ben would be a perfect Scott Peterson, 1,000,000%. If they ever make an actual movie, I hope they don't, but if they did, Ben Affleck, Scott Peterson. I don't know who would play Lacey, but Ben Affleck for sure. But let's hope they don't make a movie.
Not like Melissa McCarthy and who's playing John Ramsey.
That's the weirdest casting I've ever seen.
Actually, when I saw the picture of because Melissa McCarthy, I actually can see. Who is it? Clive Owen?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I can't see her playing Patsy.
I'm intrigued. It could go either way. It could go either way. So I'm very intrigued.
It's going to be a bomb.
For anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, I think it's going to be on Netflix, right?
It's Paramount Plus and Christmas.
Up here. No, I think it's going to be on Netflix now. I think it switched to Netflix. But it's Melissa McCarthy and Clive Owen are playing John and Patsy Ramsey.
I wonder if John had any input on this because he hasn't said anything about it.
I mean, Clive Owen. Okay.
I'd be surprised. I wonder if Burke's going to sue them too for making a show, including him without permission. He sued CBS in 2016 for like $750 million for basically saying that he did it.
And Burke.
Well, no, that Burke did that. That was Burke's lawsuit.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know, but he was a.
So if this, no, I mean, he sued them in 2016.
Oh, you're right. No, but Scott, I mean, not. I literally am brain dead after watching that. John has sued a few people.
Yeah. So.
Right. You know.
Hey, if I was Burke and I had the opportunity to CBS, I mean,
Burke absolutely had. He got every right to be.
Yeah, because they're slandering him and defamation, saying, "Oh, you killed you killed your sister," but there's still no proof on it. And he said, "I was cleared with DNA. Follow the evidence."
And that's I'm like, what happened? Well, luckily, I really do hope, and we need to go. That people do realize there should be consequences, and that free speech is not an absolute and a given, and that's something that I've only been paying attention to the TikTok site civil case because of that.
Did you know
about the woman that early on, before Brian Koberger was even arrested in Idaho, she accused a professor of a relationship with one of the victims and committing the murders with no proof other than she was a psychic. And she's now been ordered to pay, she's
$10 million?
Which, and I don't know if, she doesn't have 10 million. So that, but you know what? There should be consequences to make it outright. People should be able to express their opinions and, and present different points of view, but you should not be able to go out and destroy someone's career and life just because you're getting 10,000 subscribers from it, or because you want to hurt someone or you have hate in your heart. So I'm glad. I think there should be more consequences than oversight.
If you have the proof that, what if I'm not saying her, but like say theoretically somebody did a podcast like that recently, but you have the proof to back it up. You have the receipts to prove that it's a fact.
Well, then you can then you can get sued. I mean, or if someone sues you and you have and what you're saying you can back up, then you're going to win the lawsuit.
Yep. So as an insurance agent, I don't know if you know this, there's a thing called high profile customers. Anybody can buy this, but they're more so the people who are loaded. You can buy insurance to protect you in a case of slander and defamation. So if somebody did bring you to court to sue you for slander, you have the insurance to kick in and it will pay for the damages. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I never knew that. I never knew that.
I mean, if you met me, I'm in short.
I never, but then I thought, well, how do all these people get money when they have like kidnapping? And they're like, oh, here's a ransom. We need $500,000 or a $500,000 reward. It comes from, donations, but I know it also comes from things like that. So it's a whole thing.
My legs are insured. My lips are insured.
Yeah, Taylor Swift's cat's insured, so whatever. All right, let's wrap this up. This is going into Taylor Swift.
I have a policy on you.
That's fine. You can have a policy on anybody. They don't have to know about it. Nope, they don't have to know about it. I can take out an insurance policy on anybody I want, and they don't even have to know about it. Nobody. So
mine's all trust.
I mean, in a sick world, I mean, you could say, who in my family is most likely to croak the soonest? Let me get an insurance policy on them right now. If they die within the next 10 years, I can benefit from it. But that's why these spouses do what they do. Because they're like, oh, we have life insurance. I'm going to take her life. I benefit. Anyway, this is going way off topic. Now we're talking about insurance and Taylor Swift cats.
Yeah, I think we said goodbye like 45 minutes ago.
We did, but this is what we do. And next coming up, stay tuned. Aspen and I are going to be making some episodes. He's been following the Murdoch case again. He went to the hearing for the retrial. He's going to be going again to Lexington, South Carolina in August to watch that. So, that case was a mistrial, so it's starting all over again. So Aspen is following that.
It was, so I am definitely going to go to that. That's the 14th. For anyone that's ever followed any of the cases in Bardstown, Kentucky, I'm also going to be in Kentucky, I believe, in the beginning of August, 8 years, for the convicted murderer of Crystal Rogers, Brooks House, who I went to the trial last summer. His brother is been arrested and is facing perjury charges for lying during his interrogation when being interviewed about Crystal's disappearance, and the other date that coincides with his grand jury testimony that he gave in Crystal's disappearance, in which he also got caught recording, which is against the law. And he was a police officer at the time. So if you don't know Bardstown, Kentucky,
I do.
It's a rabbit hole. I would look it up. And Crystal's body has still never been found. There's still answers to be had there, and her father's murder has never been solved either.
Well, stay tuned for that. I'm going to have Aspen back on and talk about the Murdaugh trial, because I like his insight, because he's inside the courtroom. And I think I'm going to start calling my episodes with Aspen Inside the Courtroom with Aspen Connor. I just think that's what I'm going to do.
The Delphi oral arguments are coming up too.
Yeah, we'll cover that, because Aspen had done 2 episodes with me prior on season 2 about Libby and Abby, highlighting who they were and keeping them in the spotlight and remembering them on who they were, not just a headline. So if you want to check those out, there are 2 episodes. One talks about him at the trial, one talks about Abby and Libby. So stay tuned for that. We're going to definitely be doing more of those, the Murdaugh and Bardstown, Kentucky. I'm sure we'll get on there and do that. In the meantime, keep giving criminals the disrespect they deserve, and I will see you guys next time.